we go.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another live episode of Insight Policing. Great to be here today. Here with three other esteemed guests, our host and founder and creator of Insight Policing, Dr. Megan Price. Hello. Also here with Michael Delaney, my co-host, my partner in crime and everything else. And esteemed guest, Mr. Tony Avendorph, as we know him, Frederick Avendorph, Tony as we all call him. Give you a little bit of background on Tony. Tony has over 40 years of policing from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast. Tony is a renowned gang expert, and he was very instrumental in instituting and setting up the Prince George's County's community-oriented policing, which we know today is a vital part of the mission that we try to get across in Insight Policing. So today, why don't we go ahead and have our Dr. Price, our founder, introduce herself and give you a little background, and we'll just talk to everyone else and introduce themselves.
Great. Thanks, Andre, for that introduction. My name is Dr. Megan Price. I direct the Center for Applied Insight Conflict Resolution. And as Andre mentioned, I train and direct the program Insight Policing, which is conflict communication for law enforcement. So our training and our goal is to equip law enforcement officers with the tools that they need to prevent situations from escalating and de-escalate contentious encounters by communicating through conflict. Yep, and I train with Andre and Mike, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Mike?
Hey guys, good to be here again. Mike Delaney. I'm coming up on 30 years in law enforcement here in the Washington, D.C. area. My main focus was homicide investigations, robberies, police-involved shootings, as well as other major crimes. I've been co-instructing Insight Policing for a little over a year now with Dr. Price here and Andre, and Tony is he's one of my mentors, man. I look up to this guy. We're gonna let him talk, but he's done it all, been there, done it, and created the game. So glad to have him.
Thank you very much, Mikey. My name is Tony Avendorph. I started my law enforcement career in July of 1969 with the Illinois Department of Law Enforcement, which merged with as we know it today, the Illinois State Police, Illinois Department of Corrections, and the Illinois Bureau of Investigation, which is no longer around. I was with the state of Illinois for 16 and a half years. I worked some undercover. I worked the Fugitive Apprehension Unit and was primarily responsible for looking for parole violators and escapees. And then I became the extradition officer in 1976. I traveled in all 50 states to bring back fugitives back to the state of Illinois. And I was fortunate not to have one escape from me, or I had some give me problems, but we dealt with it. Then I left Chicago, joined the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. I was there for 3.5 years. I worked in the Los Angeles County Jail. Before you can go to the street, you have to work in the jail. That was probably some of the best training of my career, because it gave me an insight of dealing with the inmates on a day-to-day basis. Before that, all I would do is arrest you, lock you up, book you, and I'm gone. But inside the jail, you have to be a sociologist, psychologist, psychiatrist, and daddy to a lot of the inmates. Then I was sent to the Lenox Patrol Station in South Central Los Angeles, work patrol, learned a lot about gangs that weren't in Chicago, such as the Crips and the Bloods and some of them, the Mexican gangs. That's where I first was introduced to MS-13 when I was with the LA Sheriff's Department. And in 1989, I left Los Angeles. My youngest stepdaughter was almost killed in a walk-up shooting, which killed her boyfriend. My wife is from Maryland. And so I had to go and looked for a job, and I was fortunate enough to be hired by the Prince George's County Police Department. And I retired December 29th, 2009.
Tony, you definitely had a long career, man, and you definitely had a lot of experiences. And one of the experiences that I'm very familiar with, having worked and came on about the same time you did with Prince George's County, was the inception of the community-oriented policing unit or COPS unit. That today we see as a vital part. It's a lost policing tool that we've come across lately, because a lot of departments have gone away from community-oriented policing. But you know, as we see in today's climate of policing, as with insight policing, we like to get a perspective from you about how community-oriented policing was vital in your everyday dealings with the community as it relates, and how it could be helpful in insight policing today for the new officers that are being trained in this, just to help them further along their career and maintain a positive impact on the community.
Well, when I graduated from the police academy, I was assigned to Oxon Hill, which is District 4, and my sergeant was Rick Poundsbury. And one day he called me in the office and said, I'm going to be in charge of the community policing division, and you're going with me. He didn't ask me, he just told me I was going with him. I think Rick saw the way I talked to people, how I interacted with people. And then we went to District 3, which is in Landover, and Mike Blow and Al Giscombe and Bobby Matthews were all some of the original COPS officers. Diane Salem was the first female. And we started in what's called G sector. And I know Mikey and Andre are familiar with G sector. And I had G1 beat, which included Seat Pleasant, the town of Seat Pleasant, parts of the town of Capitol Heights, and then parts of unincorporated Seat Pleasant, which went along Seat Pleasant Drive. We had to find offices. They wanted us to find offices in apartment complexes. So the only major apartment complex that I saw was on Cindy Lane, and I got an office in there. And within 2 weeks, I was known as Wyatt Earp, because it was kind of like Dodge City. And I got them together. I got them to talk to me. They were, you know, I would walk around the complex, introduce myself, even to the drug dealers and guys doing other stuff, and told them that, you know, what my purpose was, why I was there. One of the things I used to tell people was, you know, I'm there to protect you as well as the rest of the community. So that kind of got their attention real quick. I had to deal with the mayors of Seat Pleasant and Capitol Heights, which I did. Capitol Heights had a police chief, William Harrison, at the time, who was a really good guy. But Seat Pleasant didn't have a police department. So I was kind of their police department until they started their own, I believe in 1993 or 1994. So I accomplished a lot in Seat Pleasant. I was offered a job in the training division, and I went there. Unfortunately, that didn't work out like a lot of times. One of the captains at District 3 asked me to come back to community policing, and they put me in Palmer Park, which, you know, if Seat Pleasant was Dodge City, Palmer Park was close. They decided to put me into a program along with an adult parole officer and juvenile parole officer. And we had a trailer in the shopping center in Palmer Park, and it gave me a great vantage point, because a lot of the bad activity was happening in that shopping center, and I had direct vision on them. And I would walk through Palmer Park, which would really aggravate the dispatchers, because they would check on me every like 2 to 3 minutes. Where are you? Are you all right? Which, you know, but I learned that from growing up in Chicago, where we had a beat officer who walked the beat, and interacted with the kids. And even though I really distrusted police growing up in Chicago, it wasn't until I met my last two judo instructors who were Chicago police officers. And they showed me that police officers are actually human beings. And that's what led me into law enforcement. But I stayed with community policing until I went to intelligence in 2001. And then when they formed the gang unit in 2004, I went over there, and then that's where I retired from.
Tony, let me ask real quick. So a lot of those areas you were talking about, Sea Pleasant, Capitol Heights, that they border the DC, in DC. But you made a good point earlier. You said when your sergeant left and they started that cops unit, you said that he took you with him because you communicated in a certain kind of way. So for people that don't know you, what were your strong points of communication or communicating community?
Just talking to you like you're a human being. Most people think that police officers are going to talk to them like police officers. I use a different approach. I did it all my career, which really used to upset a lot of Los Angeles County deputies because of their reputation. But it got me what I wanted. And I learned to do that in the jail. I actually, we had all of the gay inmates in our facility in the county, along with gang members and things of that nature. But they used to, they separated them. And I remember one morning, one of the inmates started choking on a scrambled egg, and I went over and applied the Heimlich and saved his life. And the deputies belittled me for that. And I went off, but I gained respect from the inmates. And within 5 minutes, I had almost 150 snitches in the jail because the word got around that I did that. Then I was made training deputy at the jail. So learning how to talk, growing up on the south side of Chicago, you either had to fight or you didn't exist. You had to learn how to communicate. And that's where I honed my skills. My father was a good communicator. I'm sure you guys and even Megan, my father told me no, it was no, and there was no questioning him. And although he was strict, I loved my father and I learned from him. So it gave me a perspective when I became a police officer, not to belittle people just because of what they're accused of or what they've done. And it worked for me. I think Rick Poundsbury saw that when I would talk to people on the street. And remember, they put me in John 5 beat, which was nothing but a rural area when I started. And well, you've been on the job 20 years. We're not going to put you in a high stress situation. Well, I made my own arrests out there in John 5. And then when they saw that, they made me a wild card. So I went from John 5 to John 1 and backed up other officers and things of that nature. I would always thank the officer who backed me up. And that was shocking, even police officers. So, when you walk down the street and you say hi to people and they look at you like, I didn't do anything. I said, I'm just saying hi. My name is Corporal Tony Avendorph. I always included my nickname. They never knew my real name. So, and that was why, I actually had people thank me for helping their families and things of that nature. I think you guys remember Christmas in April. Mm-hmm. Well, we used to have that in Palmer Park, and I would ride along with them, do the work and try to diffuse situations. So I even have respect from MS-13 gang members here. They started calling me Viejo, which means the old one. So that worked out. The rest of the gang, you recall the names, and we won't repeat them on this video. But they called me Viejo.
Tony, let me ask you a question. At some point, like you said, cops kind of went by the wayside, so to speak, the original conception of cops, and it kind of went into the gang unit type thing and a lot less of community-oriented policing. What have you seen with that switch from community-oriented policing? How has it affected the way law enforcement is perceived, the way things are going now within the communities and the mistrust? How do you think that getting away from cops and the community-oriented policing model has affected policing today?
Well, one of the things, police officers aren't trained how to communicate with people in the police academy. So when they come out, they get with their FTO, and depending on who their field training officer is, it could be a learning process, or it can not be a learning process. And so that's a major issue, because a lot of the original community policing officers did have the gift of communication. There were one or two who didn't, and it caused problems. But the majority of us, we worked as teams. If I had an issue in G1B, Bobby and Diane Salem would come over and help me, and we would go over and help Mike Blow and Al Giscombe and things of that nature. So we worked together as a unit, and so I would meet people from Kentland who had relatives in Palmer Park. Oh yeah, Avendorph, we heard about you. And another thing, besides judo, I used to box. So the Sugar Ray Leonard boxing gym was in the shopping center. So I went in there and put on gloves and got in the ring with a few of the people and got respect that way. And there's a couple times that that helped diffuse situations, because and you guys know this, when the alleged bad guys start respecting you, they may wind up saving your life one day.
Yeah.
And when another example is my wife was in a Giant years ago, and she was checking out. The lady said, "Hello, Mrs. Avendorph." She said, "Hi, how are you?" And the guy behind her said, "Are you related to Tony Avendorph?" And she says, "Yes." "How do you know him?" "Oh, your husband sent me to prison." And I'd always told her, if something like that happened, just be cool and don't freak out. And he said, "No, your husband helped me. He talked to me. He spent time with me in the interview room." And I sent him away for dealing drugs. He became a master plumber in prison, and now he's doing great. So what if I had treated him the wrong way? That could have been a problem for her. So you have to, if you're not familiar with people and different ethnicities, then you need to learn, and you're not taught that in the academy. If you've never been around African Americans, I mean, a lot of police officers I trained, "Oh yeah, I played football with so and so." "Did you ever go by his house?" "No." "Did you ever meet his family?" "No." "Do you understand African American culture?" "No." Same with Latino, same with Asian. I had an advantage because I learned a lot of Japanese culture. So it kind of helped me with the Korean culture in Palmer Park. And I had to get their trust. They did not want to talk to me. So I finally got their trust. So it's about trust. It's about who you are as a person. It's about how you feel for other people.
Good points. Very good points.
Yeah, and I think those, when an officer can develop those kind of relationships with the community that they serve, I mean, you're going to have a great deal of respect for the community. The community's going to have a great deal of respect for you, and you're going to get a lot more information out there, and you're going to solve a lot more crimes. And I think, I think we're seeing a lot of that going on in this DC metropolitan area with all these shootings and all this stuff. There's back in the day, we used to have officers that were intricately assigned to these areas and that knew all these players and that knew all these guys that were caught up in these gangs and guns. And I think, once we've gone away from that as police departments, we can obviously see what the solemn outcome has become now, as we continue on today. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, one thing that shocked me when I had my retirement party, it wasn't at FOP. I did not know, and they kept it from me, that members of the community in Sea Pleasant and Palmer Park were coming to my retirement party. And that brought me to tears. That really brought me to tears because they, I was family to them. And to this day, I get phone calls. I just got a phone call from a lady in Palmer Park just the other day, just to see how I was doing. So yeah, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me.
Well, we definitely appreciate your insight in your years of policing and experience. And, it definitely leaves a different play on how community policing, communication plays into the role of insight policing and trying to make everybody's lives better in this whole situation. So I really appreciate you taking the time out to speak with us today. It's very enlightening.
It's not a problem. As I said, I respect you too. I've heard a lot of good things about you, Megan, and your program. And and as Andre and Mikey know, I'll do anything I can for them because I have respect for them. We never worked together, but we worked in concert. A lot of their homicides had gang overtones, and I was one of the few gang unit officers who would actually go to CID and walk in there and say, okay, what can I do to help you? You need anything from me? So that's how I operated, and it's the way I operate today. And I try to impair that among these young officers. You look at my white hair and you find out how old I am, and that not that much has changed. I remember when we didn't have handheld radios, things of that nature, and time has progressed where things are a lot better. There were no cell phones when I was under. I had to rely on my instincts and people allegedly following me who would lose me half the time, and then they wouldn't tell me for fear I'd go off on them. But I mean, it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about people. This is the greatest job in the world if you work it right.
I agree. Totally agree, man. Tony, we definitely thank you for being here, man. And
Absolutely.
I know we coming short on time, and we may have to get you back on to get some of these war stories from you, man. I appreciate you.
Well, as I told you, I'm writing a book, so as soon as the publisher is ready, I'll you'll see a whole lot more in that book.
Yeah, definitely share the Amazon link.
Huh?
Definitely share the Amazon link.
Absolutely. Well, God bless all of you, and I'll be looking forward to talking with you again.
All right, Tony. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you.
All right, brothers. Bye.